Hey guys, it's Phil coming in with another video. I hope every single person is doing well that is watching this and is having a good start to their new year so far. And I know 26 people are because they've passed their exams, and they are as follows. We have Orchard S, Olivia S, Nadine W, Tanya D, Tina P, Lee R, Katie E, JF, Miss Life, Kathy B, Yasmin E, Kayla J, Mackenzie G, Arvine, Michelle M, Stephanie G, Christy A, Gary R, Kimberly M, Tammy M, Nadia C, Raymond A, Anna B, Jesse J, DS, and Foxy G. Congrats to those people, and I'm so blown away because we had 26 people pass in the last 2 weeks. And it blows my mind how many people are starting to pass and how fast people can pass, and it blows me away. And I just want to take a moment to say I appreciate every single person that is rocking with me, is listening to my videos, is sharing my name, and is continuing to perpetuate the name that is filling the gaps. And if you want me to share your name, or if you've passed and want to just let me know, my email is berda24@gmail.com. As well as if you want to go on my Facebook page at Fill in the Gaps as well and leave me a review to let other people know that the style works and what your experience was about the exam, I'd really appreciate it. And something I want to touch on briefly today that I've been hearing a lot about is, what do I do when I'm super busy? Like, what does it look like when you are super busy within that thickle of studying for the exam? So when you are in that thickle of, I'm so overwhelmed, I have a family, I have a job, I'm doing all these things, you need to understand, like, you don't have to push yourself to the maximum limit, but you do know that there is a sacrifice that is needed to pass this exam as well as make time for it. And I'm not telling you to quit everything, and I'm not telling you to put too much on yourself, but have an honest conversation with yourself and say, what is important to me at this given moment, and am I doing too much, and is my actions that I'm doing getting me to where I want to go? And then it's way too easy to get too swept up on, well, I feel like I have to do this, or I feel like I have to do this, or I have a lot of pressure from this and that. Because at the end of the day, your mental health at this given moment is way more important than any goal that you could possibly have. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of the duties that you have within front of you. And an experience that I commonly have with myself is, what am I wanting to do with my life, and what is the path to get there? And a lot of opportunities hop out from every single spot, because I'm a human, you're a human, you have a lot of opportunities and choices to make in your life as well. But the big question I always have to reflect on is what I'm doing currently helping me to get to where I want to go? So if you are super duper busy in your life and still want to study for your exam or accomplish a goal that you have in mind, you almost need to sit down with yourself and say, what can I cut back on? And you may say, Phil, there's nothing that I can cut back on. You don't know me. And to that, I would say, I don't know your experience, but I do know what it feels like to be super duper busy and have a lot of people pecking and pulling you in each direction and wanting something from what you're trying to do. And that's okay. But you have to sit down and say, it's okay to say no and prioritize what I need at this given moment. If that's eliminating cell phone time with what you're doing, no social media, no extracurriculars, maybe that's not watching a TV show, and sitting down and mapping down what the amount of time that you can put in each day. And that may be only 10 minutes. And if you can only study for 10 minutes, go for it, because that is 10 more minutes than you would have had otherwise. And a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves and have expectations of what our study preps and what our goals and what our timelines and all of these things should look like. But you, as well as your life experiences, know what is supposed to be intended with and for your situation. And I know it's easy to say it from the outside looking in, but if you don't look from the outside looking in, you're going to have your internals dictate what you need, and that may not be positive, because if you only have one perspective and are in this situation alone, you may feel more stressed, more distant, and all of these things. So sitting down, finding the community that can help you, and being in that situation that would be helpful in your situation is helpful. You know what I mean? So that's kind of simple to say, but when you're looking at your situation, you need to say, what do I need? What am I doing to get there? And is it actually helping me get there, or is it pulling me further away from where I actually want to be in my current situation? So knowing what is best for you and going from there is going to be super duper helpful. And if you want to be a part of getting assistance from me, you can send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. I offer individual tutoring and the study groups, and the next study groups coming up are 216, attachment theory, parenting styles, and Maslow's. 223, Maslow's stages of grief and conditionings. And 3.1, Freudian theory. And if you're wondering, Bill, what do your study groups even look like? It's where I review the topic of interest, so I go over the materials, and then I provide 5 to 10 practice questions that I write myself to help improve the comprehension on the topic that we're reviewing that day. And you'll get a recording of the session and the study materials that you can view as many times as you want and for as long as you want, so there's no time restraints on that. So people find that very convenient, as well as this video that I'm going to do, that you're going to see right now, is going to be listening to people that are struggling to pass their exams, people that feel like they have too many materials, and talking to somebody that passed their exam after rocking with me what their process was. And a video topic that I'm starting to think about doing is, do you actually need assistance with passing the exam, and what is the appropriate time to pass the exam, and what does it look like to work with a tutor? So if you're interested in that, drop down below your thoughts on what that is, as well as any video topics that you want to see. And again, if you're interested in connecting with me, my email is berda24@gmail.com. Hit the thumbs up button down below. Subscribe for more videos, guys. Sit back, relax, and let's soak in the knowledge, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys. Let's go.
Hello.
How is it going?
Hi, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So I took the exam yesterday and I passed. I'm still on cloud 9 right now. I took it for the first time in August, and I didn't pass. And so basically what I did was I just took a step back to regroup, reset, took a little vacation, hung out with some friends, and then I tapped right back into it, and that's when I reached out to you because I really didn't know where to start. And so basically I just gathered, some resources, and I just stuck to 3 main things that I was going to use because I didn't want to overwhelm myself. But I think what really helped me the most also was that over the course of 7 weeks of studying, I had took over 1,300 practice questions. So my study regimen was Monday through Friday I was studying, and every Saturday I would take a practice exam. I would time myself. I would tally up, the answers, go through the questions one by one, and every week I noticed that my score was increasing. And so basically preparing for this time around, I just spoke with my close friends and my family and just let them know, like, listen, I'm going to be in the zone. There's going to be a lot of things that I'm not going to be entertaining. I disconnected myself from social media. Because with a person like me, I have anxiety. So, and I'm also part of a social work group. So to see people, posting how they failed so many times, a person like me, I don't need to see that. So I had to disconnect myself from that and just, kind of put myself in a good, positive space. And so I just went in there yesterday and I freaking nailed it. I didn't even realize how fast I was flying through those questions. I was done in 3 hours. A lot of the questions that I seen, I recognized from all the practice exams that I was taking on my own. Another thing that was important for me was that the same way that I positioned myself while I was taking the practice at home, meaning like my posture and making sure that I was wearing comfortable clothing, I did the same exact thing for the real exam yesterday. And that actually worked for me. And so, yeah, that was my experience. I had one of the harder exams because I just needed a 98. So it was very hard. And I scored 103. And yeah, I walked out of it like a boss.
So what are some things that you would suggest people avoiding while preparing for the exam?
Negative energy, definitely. If you're a person that has anxiety or you compare yourself to other people, definitely stay away from social media, especially, if you're part of a social work Facebook group and, you got people that's venting, which is okay. They can do that. But for you, I would highly suggest that you disconnect yourself from that. I emotionally disconnected myself from certain conversations, certain people. I was not engaging in any type of negative conversations. I was just like really in the zone. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. And tell them a little bit about your experience with working with me, I guess.
Yeah, so I found you through the social work group. People were just throwing your name out there, and I said, all right, let me just see what this guy's about. And I went on YouTube and I saw your videos, and I was impressed, and that's when I reached out. I was a part of a few of the study groups, and it really did help a lot, like the way you broke down the questions, because the questions can be very tricky. And if you just miss that one word, it can just throw you off. So the way you broke it down really, really helped.
Okay. Awesome. Anything else that you want to share with people that are preparing? Because your advice is going to be as pivotal as mine is.
Yeah, I would just say, just remember, why you're taking this exam. Um, and another thing I want to note, like, I was extremely calm, leading up to the exam. And if you're feeling calm, be okay with feeling calm. Like, you don't have to look for a reason to be anxious. Because I started to scare myself, like, why am I feeling so calm? Why am I not nervous that this test is coming up? Even when I walked into the exam room yesterday, nothing about me was nervous. I wasn't anxious at all. And I'm like, is this supposed to be happening? So just allow yourself to be calm and confident, and know that you can definitely do it.
Isn't it wild as mental health professionals, even, that we are worried that we're not worried? And
Yes,
we're like, I should be worried in this situation because this is what people have told me that I should be doing.
exactly. Exactly.
It is so beautiful to hear that you were so locked into what you knew and what you wanted to get done that nothing else could take you off the path.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you, Phil, for all that you do.
It is,
Definitely appreciate it.
it is my pleasure, honestly, and it's support like yours and stories like yours that keep me going, because all of the things that you said, I could see myself saying those in the videos that I share.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
Hmm.
Didn't pass the first time, took the LMSW, passed the LBSW. Now I have issues, terrified to take this test again. All right.
Yes, my name's Diane. Hi.
How
It's
is it going?
okay. I'm glad to be part of this study group, and thank you for having it free. It's good advertisement for you, because I never know, I might want to hire you as a coach soon. But yes, I did really well on the LBSW, and the way I did that, what I thought was, I took the practice exam, the one that you can purchase before you take the test.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can do that with the LMSW as well. Well, I did that, and I studied it, and I passed the test. So my strategy was to do the same with the LMSW. Well, that did not work that time. So I'm very apprehensive now and looking for good study groups or materials that I can use. So my thing is that practice exam that you purchase um, gave me confidence the first time, but the second time it didn't help. So not sure how to go about this again.
So from the sounds of it, you had an experience prior and you tried moving that into a template of how this experience would go.
Yes, I used the same strategy, and it didn't work the second time for the master's program. And so that's why I've been apprehensive and not scheduled my exam, and wondering if I should even go through it. But I'm the kind of person where I want to meet that challenge and go for it, but I want to be prepared. And I thought I was, and I wasn't. And so now I'm apprehensive.
So walk me through this. What are some positives from your last exam attempt?
More of group, I had a group. Now, when I went into my master's, the groups were not there anymore. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. And so part of me thinks that a group study but it helps me. We all learn in different ways. And so maybe this is, that's the best way for me. I don't know. But,
Okay. What makes you so uncertain of what you think you need for yourself?
well, because of the fact that I used the study exam as a guide to practice and study and focus on. and I did well on that for my LMSW, the practice exam. I passed it, so I was confident, maybe overconfident, I don't know, but I continued studying up until my test date, and then I failed it by 6 points, and I was like, what? How could I fail this when I passed the practice exam like over 10 points? So that's why I'm like, holy crap. Do you understand do you know what I'm referring to when I say the practice exam?
The ASWB one?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that one I passed with flying I did well. And when I took the test, I bombed. So that's why I'm apprehensive. I'm afraid to take the test again.
So my biggest suggestion to you is to change your perspective on what you're doing in the process. And why I say that is because you kind of fell into one of the cardinal sins that I told the people to avoid is do not take the practice exam to quote unquote see if I'm ready to take the actual exam, because it can do one to two things. It can either one, deflate you if you don't do well on it, or it could shoot your confidence through the roof. And when you walk into the exam, it punches you right in the face. And now you're in the situation where you're like, well, wow, I thought I was ready. I did all of the right things. I did what I thought was right. And you did a lot of things right. It's just hard work doesn't always yield the results. But when you're consistent with what you do, and now that you have exposure to the actual exam, you are better off for that process of not passing. It is actually a blessing rather than a curse, like it feels like right now.
Okay. Well, I'm here to learn and see what you got.
Okay. Well, walk me through this because I don't want to leave you empty handed. What is your learning style?
Well, I read. I like to read, and I like to discuss, just like we're doing now. I think that works well for me, and I lacked that when I took my master's exam. In other words, I didn't have a group. I was on my own. I took my courses online, and so I didn't have people to meet with physically and review together. And we did that along with taking the practice exam and going over that thoroughly, all of us. It was just me. And so I'm thinking that particular factor contributed possibly to me not passing. So hopefully if I become part of a group, maybe that will reinforce.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm willing to try anything.
Okay. Well, I would say reach out to people and create your own group, or you can join the study groups on Sundays from 7 p.m. Eastern time until the cats come in and they kick us out. Or just
Sunday
kidding.
at 7?
Yes, it's over various topics, and you can find them on my Facebook page at Fill in the Gaps, or you can just send me an email at berda24@gmail.com, and I can give you the info of all of the topics and everything.
Okay,
And
sounds
if you aren't sure if it's what would work for you, just send me an email and I can let you try out the first one free as my guest.
okay. You do one-on-one tutoring?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I do individual sessions as well with people.
Hmm.
That one's a little easier going. I mean, because you can click on a link, you can see my tutoring schedule, and you can self-schedule yourself.
Hmm.
But send me an email and I can give you that as well.
Okay.
Because I definitely know what it feels like to not have resources and not feel connected to people, or try and do something and not get the result that you want. But like I said, it's actually a blessing that things don't always work out the first time, because it shows you what happens when you face adversity and that there is actual support around you to help you.
Thank goodness. Yes, thank you. Okay.
So yeah, I would say just connect with me or connect with other people, because if you strive and thrive better in groups, you need to lay into your strengths rather than isolate and make yourself less strong than you could have.
Gotcha.
You can do it.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure. And if you have any other questions, just feel free to ask, okay?
Okay, I'll mute you. Thanks.
Awesome.
Hey, Phil.
How is it going?
Hey, it's Leslie.
What's up? What's up?
Nothing. So I'm like pumped for this test, and I can't believe it.
What has you so uncertain or like surprised?
No, I don't know. I just, you and I, we talked in our individual session
Mhm.
about changing my mindset. And so instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm about to take the test, I'm like, nope, 16 days from now, I'm about to be an LCSW. Like, I've got this. So I've really been studying. But I'm like, geez, do I stop studying a few days before? I know we talked about it. I don't know. When it comes to the medications, I'm kind of like stumped. I've been kind of just like trying to like write things like old school style, like when you got in trouble at school, to try to memorize the meds. So yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of tricked up on the medications.
So since I've worked with you on individual, I know your learning style a little bit more. And from what I remember, you're more audio and visual.
Yeah.
So a little hack to lead into that, because writing it out is not actually helping because that's a tactile function.
Mm-hmm.
So something that might help an audio and visual learner is record yourself saying the meds, and that way you have it, and then create a visual chart as the recording's going. So that way, as you're hearing it, you're also seeing it and you're reinforcing and leading into your learning style.
I started to do that. And then I was just like, oh no, maybe this will work a little bit better, but I'll go back to square one.
What scares you about actually being confident in your abilities and leading into what actually works for you?
I think the sheer fact that I didn't pass this test the first go round. So remember, I was like, oh, I need to try something different. And then we talked about how like just because what I did before with the TDC doesn't mean that it didn't work. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I just want to make sure I do everything that I possibly can, which I feel like I did the first go round too.
And you remember what I told you?
You told me a lot of great things.
So I'll share with everybody is I need you to do the exact same thing as you did last time and expect a different result. And most times people will say, well, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. But the flaw in using that phrase in this context is you're not going to see the same exact questions. So we need to make sure your techniques and your strategies and all the things that you're doing are as sharp as they possibly can be, and you've already utilized it with 170 actual questions. So the next time you walk in there and do it, you are going to be better for believing that what you had done is going to yield a different result.
Gotcha. My next question is, this daggone book, what is it? The Akbar, whatever it is, the Apgar.
Mm-hmm.
This book is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I just answered my question because you told me to do what I did before.
Ooh.
And I didn't use this book before. Okay. Well, I do have one other question though, because the young lady that shared, her passing and kind of like her testimony, I know she said that she did like 1 trillion of practice questions. Do you think I need to up my practice questions this week?
Is that what you want to do, or is that what she told you that would be helpful for her situation? And do you feel it would be helpful for yours? So that's 3 separate questions. Do you feel that it would be helpful? Are you just adding it because it's what she did and it worked for her?
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it won't hurt.
Okay.
It seems like it won't hurt, but I mean, I also don't know if it's going to add more chaos, because I can also see myself getting discouraged if I'm not passing those practice tests.
So if you're going to do more practice questions, I would say do it with 3 purposes in mind. The first one, practice the routine that you have right now.
Okay.
Second, test how in-depth your understanding and breaking down the questions are. And third, don't use it as a way to bring down what you know, whether you get it right or wrong. Understand why you're getting the questions right and wrong and see, is there a theme within what I'm currently doing?
And that's what I've been doing. I've been flagging the practice tests that I've taken before. I've seen a trend, so I've been flagging them with sticky notes. It's like the same questions, and I'm going back like, okay, is it a first, is it a most, is it the best question? What did I miss here? Okay, well, I guess I'm in the right direction now. Okay.
Keep doing what you're doing. You are on the right track. You absolutely are.
Thanks, Phil. Can't
It-
wait for my shout out in 16 days.
I will be glad to do it.
Thank you.
You are welcome. If you have any other questions, just drop a shout.
Cool beans.
I took my test for the second time and did not pass. My application expires on 12/14. And since I didn't pass, I have to wait 90 days. I'm in the process of reapplying, but I'm waiting on my clinical supervisor to re-sign off on my notes.
Hi, Phil. Can you hear me?
Yes, how is it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So I took my test for the second time, but I would like to share with everyone that the first time that I took it, I didn't pass by 21 points. And second time around, I didn't pass by 3 points. So I improved a lot. And I think that it helped me out tremendously with finding out what my learning style was. And I'm definitely more of a audio learner and visual learner. And so in regards to, since I didn't pass the second time, when you don't pass, they make you wait 90 days unless your job is in jeopardy, which my job is not. So my application expires December 14th. And so I have to reapply all over again. So my advice to everyone is don't be afraid to take your test, because being afraid, in my sense, pushed me to wait to the last minute to take my tests. The first time I took it was in May of 2018, and then I just took it on Monday. So
What do you think prevented you from taking it sooner?
I think not feeling like I wasn't ready and that I was going to fail. I fear failing all the time and not passing.
So now that you have taken it and failed the exam and saw the progression, what is your experience like now in your perspective?
I definitely feel more confident. I know the first time that I took my exam, my anxiety was through the roof. All I could focus on was my heart pounding over and over again. I think now this time when I took it the second time, I just felt confident. I had like very minimal anxiety. So I know that this third time going in, I'm going to kick some butt without that anxiety.
So what helped bridge that gap from the 21 points to the 3 points? What did you do differently in between the attempts?
Just really focused on I took a lot of time lapse in between studying. Like I would go a month and study, then I would stop for a couple months and I would go back in and study again for like a month. And I just really stayed consistent. I was in your private pilot prep you did that started in June. So I participated in that from June. I think it ended like the first week in September. So I studied in between that whole time. And then I also studied like for the next couple of months after until November 4th when I took it. So I think just being very consistent and in between that time, not taking too long time off from studying and being consistent with my studying. And definitely I think your videos, I would replay them over and over again and just watch them over and over again, because I will retain more information from just listening to your voice and the information that you were kind of, telling us or telling me.
So now with this next attempt being within the next 90 days, what are you going to do differently, or what will your process look like?
I'm keeping everything the same.
That's what I was hoping that you would say. Double down on what you know.
Yes, I think what I was doing worked, And at first, I had a brief moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this, I need to do that. I wasn't doing this, I should do that. And I stopped doing that. And I said, stop, you're doing what you're doing and it's working for you. And don't change what you were doing.
That is the greatest thing that I can possibly hear is I had all of the urges and had all of this different things that people were telling me I should do or different ideas that I had. But if I started to fall back and believe in myself, I will get the better results than trying to produce things that aren't actually there.
Yeah. But another thing I would say for other people too is trust in what you're doing and not be afraid that it's not going to work, because you know what you're doing and you know that it's working for you, and just stay along that path and don't lose sight of that, because then you're going to start to get that worry and that fear and that unknown when you know what you're doing. So just stick with it.
So trust in yourself and the rest will follow, eh?
Yes, you say a lot of different quotes, but I think the biggest one you say is trust in your process, and I love that. I tell a lot of people that trust in your process and stay with what works for you.
Mm-hmm. And something new that I recently heard, and this may resonate with some people, maybe not with other people, but don't just work hard, be a hard worker. And what that means is don't simply binge and do things that other people have told you and have that short stint of success or anything in your life, but actually dig down and be consistent in what you think is going to happen, and the results that you think are going to happen will. A good example is this group in general. Like when I first started, I always say this, the first study group was 14 people, but prior to that, no one was really watching the videos. No one was really watching and supporting, but that's why it means so much to me that so many people support now and so many people are willing to share out, because it wasn't that I just binged and worked hard for a short stint of time. This has been going on for just over a little bit of a year, but it's because the consistency and all of the stuff that you guys are doing for yourselves that is making this actually worthwhile and sustainable.
I was going to also say that you post a lot of videos from this gentleman that does a lot of motivational stuff. I can't think of his name.
Eric Thomas.
Yes, when I start to feel like down or low motivation, I'll watch those videos, and he's amazing. So I suggest that for anyone who starts to feel doubting themselves or thinking they can't do this, his videos are, like I said, amazing.
That is who I actually got that new quote from. Is he has a podcast, and it's called The Secrets to Success, and he brings in, and his story is actually so mind-blowing. It's just a matter of just falling back on what you are and who you are and allowing the process to happen. Even if the results aren't there, just keep going, because when you're doing things and other things aren't working out for you, there are greater things in the mix for you in this.
So I think that's all I'll share.
Okay. Well, thank you for chiming in and for sharing out, because a lot of the things that you said were nuggets, and I hope people catch them.
Thanks, Phil, for everything.
It is my pleasure. And if you need anything, of course, keep reaching out, keep driving, and keep striving.
Oh, you know I will.
Awesome. I take the test next month. I'm nervous. I don't know where to start. Can I talk to you where to start?
Hi, Phil.
How is it going?
It's going well. My name is Shanika. I just registered to take my test a couple of weeks ago, and I just graduated. I'm taking the master's level. So it's the first time I'm sitting down looking at the test for 4 hours. I haven't taken it already.
So what has you so nervous about the process?
I think just listening to everyone's stories who hasn't passed, I think it's getting me a little worked up. I purchased the TDC, and before that, while I was still in school, I was taking practice tests here and there, but I wasn't really being consistent with it. And so now that, I have a month to prepare, I'm just like, okay, let me really get serious.
And what does getting serious look like? Because it seems like you've already purchased a program, but it's still hesitant to start.
Yeah, I think it's just finding a rhythm between work and studying that's got me nervous. And also just like my anxiety about test taking,
Mm-hmm.
trying to calm myself down about the exam and how I feel about it is what's really gonna have me um, ready to take the test.
Okay. Well, let me ask you one question. Why are you doing this process?
Because I need to. I need to enhance my career. I need to be licensed. And also it's just I think that's a good question. No one's ever asked me that. And also I think it's just for validation that the years I spent getting the degree was like worth it. I learned everything I needed to know.
And with this, who in your life is losing out because you're not motivated to study and take this test?
Myself.
Okay. So that is what you have to think about every time that you get ready to study, is that this is for me. Like, this
Mhm.
is something that I've wanted to and worked for. And yes, this is a scary experience, but it doesn't have to be as upbeat and fast as I hear that it is, because I can tailor this process to my own experience.
Okay.
So what would you say is a realistic amount of schedule for you? Like, with you working and all of this stuff, what would be a realistic schedule of studying for you?
I think it would be maybe like 2 hours, 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And how long are you going to allow yourself to study? Like, how, over what span of time?
Up until I take the exam the end of December.
Okay. Get it done then. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's scary though, because you're like, is that enough? Is it not
Right.
enough? Or is it too much?
Mhm.
But you know who the judge of that is?
Me.
Absolutely. Like, just say, know myself better than anyone else does. And if I don't tailor this to me and my strengths, I'm going to have what ifs in my mind after the exam.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And you don't have to be alone in this process. Like, I'm here to help. Every single person that's in the live version of the chat is here to help too, because it does feel like you're alone sometimes, but you don't have to be alone because you have so much support. It's just a matter of finding it and utilizing it. Because a lot of times people will say, I'm here to help you. But isn't it so scary to reach out?
It is, yeah. I'm like taking the first steps now by just even asking the question to you.
And I appreciate you doing that, because it takes a lot to ask a question and then hear a response that may be contrary to what you want to hear.
Mhm. Right.
But if I had to guess, everything that I just said to you is what you were hoping to hear.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy because I'm like I'm psyching myself out when everyone is just like, yeah, you'll do fine. But then you just I was listening to the person who spoke, Aja, who passed the test, like logging off of social media, and I'm part of the Facebook group, and just seeing that people are taking it for how many times and failing, and it works up my anxiety as well, and I haven't sat down. I don't even know what it really looks like yet, and I think I just psych myself out thinking about what everyone else is doing.
Would it be possible for me to tell you a little story real quick?
Sure.
Okay. So think about somebody that just passed their exam. They're super duper excited. And they're like, wow, that was a really stressful situation. I want to help people pass this exam.
Mhm.
And there are other larger companies than this person, which scares the heck out of this person. And they're like, am I able to do this? Am I going to do this? And then they whip out their cell phone and make a video. It doesn't get any views, no interest, but they keep going. But there are still bigger programs, and people are saying that that program is the best around.
Mhm.
that story is me, but I was not focused on what that other program was doing or what the other programs are doing, because I knew what I was doing was going to help someone at some capacity. And
Yeah.
even if it helped one person, because I remember what it felt like to be afraid and not want to do it. But with this, even though it was scary, I didn't allow what other people say, and I still don't allow what other people say dictate what I currently do, because I'm so deeply rooted that when you believe in yourself, that you're going to see results. They just may not be the results that you intended to have.
Right.
And you're going to see other programs and get questions wrong and make mistakes and do things that you feel that you quote unquote shouldn't do. But what happens is what is supposed to happen at that given moment. And as long as you take experience and keep striving and learning and growing as a person, you'll be better off.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the pep talk.
It is my
I
pleasure,
really needed.
honestly, because I am picturing every time I'm talking to somebody that I'm looking at who I previously was and what I needed to hear.
Right.
You can do this. It may seem scary and it may seem like it's the most jarring experience around, but you've been through so many things in your life that this is just a one moment. And when you pass it, you're going to look back and say, what was I worried about?
You're right.
Because there's a lot of things that I've personally been through that I look back and go, holy smokes, did that actually happen? Like, because when people ask me, Phil, how long have you been in this mental health field helping people, right? And I look back and I always have to calculate, well, I graduated the University of Michigan just almost 3 years ago. And then I
Wow.
look back and say, all this has happened in just 3 years. But I remember being so stressed out through the entirety of it. And I wish that I could still be back in those stressful moments because it was so much less stressful back then.
Mm-hmm.
So my suggestion for you is to picture what you see this opportunity doing for you, what you can currently do in this moment to get there, and reflect on where you came from and not forget the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Okay. Thanks, Phil.
You are welcome. You can do this. You really can. And I'm here to help you if you need it, but I think you can kick this thing's butt on your own.
Okay. I'll definitely reach out, and I want to join some study groups, so I'll keep you posted.
Awesome. I look forward to working with you.
And you too.
Awesome. Thank you again for sharing, because without questions like yours, this wouldn't exist.
Thank you.
All right. So my average on practice exams for LMSW is a 70. Do you think I have a good shot at passing? I'm scheduled for next Friday. And this question always gets me when people say, I scored this or I did this on a practice exam. People forget the first word that becomes before exam, practice. And practice is utilized to gauge where you're at and to propel you further. People view it as if I get a practice question wrong, I'm inadequate. And that's not always the case, because you can miss details that can strive and push you off the path. With this, you have to understand no score on any practice regimen or scale is going to dictate what you actually do in that exam, because the only thing that can dictate if you pass that exam is the actual exam. So don't focus too heavily on practice materials. You can, of course, because they are a good gauge. And if you're getting low scores, it may mean that you're missing details, but it's not the end all be all. There are people that passed practice exams and walked in and kicked the exam in the chest, and now they're licensed. There are people that have kicked practice exams in the chest and they get punched in the face in the actual exam because it was totally off the base of what they thought, and their self-esteem and what they did in the past robbed them what they could possibly do in the future, because their perception of who they were was totally different than who they were during the exam. So I would definitely recommend changing your perspective of practice and say, what is the process that I'm doing that is working? What a part of this process is not working? What adjustments should I make to help me get closer to where I think I need to go? But again, there's no guarantees at all whether you'll pass or fail the actual exam based on any practice regimens or any practice things that are out there. So the basis is develop a routine, figure out how you learn and what is helpful for you, and what are you going to do during the exam if you feel like you're getting questions wrong or getting anxious. How can you redirect yourself to calm yourself to get yourself to where you want to go? So no practice regimen will ever get you closer to actually passing. It could help you develop a routine, of course, but not any percentile or anything based on the practice will dictate how you do on the actual exam, because only the 170 questions on your actual exam will dictate if you pass or fail. So that's how I would address that question in particular. So I struggle with changing from a child protective investigator for 21 years and going over to a therapist or LCSW. Learning the diagnoses and meds have been my issue. Any suggestions? This will be my 4th time trying. I really want it this time. So my biggest suggestion when it comes to diagnosis and medications is to understand which ones you understand and which ones you don't understand, and developing a routine around the things that you don't know, but always keeping your learning style in mind. Because if you're not honing in on your learning style and you figure out what I'm doing right now is not helping me retain the information or apply it in some way, reassess it. But when it comes to the DSM, I always tell people break it into pieces that are manageable for you and then go from there, because the DSM is overwhelming. But if you categorize it into disorders, such as I'll study the depressive disorders, then the anxiety disorders, then the childhood disorders, then the personality disorders, then the mood disorders, then substance use disorders, and then extracurricular disorders over here, and then psychotic disorders, etc. And then with the medications, it's just a matter of honing through and combing through each individual one. Like if you want to couple it and say, I'm going to study the depressive disorders and the depressive medications that could potentially go with them. So coupling them is going to be very pivotal and can actually lead you to being better off in the process. But when it comes to being your 4th time, you may have to let go of your previous exams to get to where you want to go, because a lot of times people will let their previous fails dictate how they feel about their current exam. So if you don't let go of the previous attempts and let it impact negatively how you're going to approach the future exam, then it's probably a bad move. So you have to forgive yourself, you have to forgive the exam, and then you have to understand, is what I'm doing practice-wise leading me closer to where I want to go? So a lot of times people will bring negative situations and negative feelings that they have because I possibly couldn't get the right answer because I've failed the previous exams. With it being your 4th time, you almost have to convince yourself like it is the first time, because you were excited the first time, you were pumped up the first time, you were excited the first time. And with that, you have to get excited again, because if you're not excited about the exam, you just have to be honest and say, this is not what I currently want right now. This is what I feel I want. And if my focus isn't there, my energy is not going to flow there, because if you don't focus, your energy won't get there, because where your focus goes, your energy flows, and where your energy flows, your focus will inherently go. So you have to want this like anything in life. But if you don't actually want it, or you're letting anxiety convince you that you don't want it, you have to let it go and say, I believe that I can do this regardless of what I did in the past, because this is the new day of the new me. If you don't change your perspective of where you're currently at, nothing will change, because where nothing changes, nothing changes. So you have to make changes to what you're doing or your perspective of what is happening. So there are 2 factors that people typically struggle with. Am I perceiving where I'm at actually far away from where I currently am? Either good or bad. I can think I'm way more talented than I actually am, and it actually perform less than because I have this inflated sense of self. Or on the other side, I could think I am way less competent than I actually am, and I'm actually more talented, but I don't have confidence and believe that I can actually do this. And it leads to more negative results, because your perception of where you're at is going to dictate what happens with your situation. You have to understand what I'm doing right now has to equate to what I want to be doing in the future, because what you're doing right now has to be what you're enjoying.
Your process is way more important than the actual result, because you can take that process, that confidence, and your abilities into your future goals. This isn't just about an exam. This is about where you want to go in your career and if you can maintain it once you get it. Because a lot of times what we want is to succeed. But if we're not putting in the work and believing that we can succeed in our future, we're not going to get there. So you have to develop the roadmap and develop the mindset at this given time that I am the best version of myself right now. It does not have to be that way in the future, because if I'm not happy with where I'm at, I can make changes to get further than I actually perceive I can get. Or if I think that I'm really talented right now, build on that. Remind yourself what your goal is multiple times a day and get there, because fear is your biggest enemy, and it's everyone's biggest enemy. Because if you don't actually think that you can do something, you won't. But if you believe that you can do something and still don't succeed and do that behavior, you're going to be more motivated, more excited, and more pumped up than ever to get that, because you saw the progression. You have to humble yourself. You have to endure things to get that exposure and experience. But because a lot of times we try to say, just because this happened in the past, it's going to happen in the future. That's not how things always work. So you have to think that things can happen differently for different results to happen. And that is what I will say about that.